Then the next is the flash memory, which is, if you want, the current uh, ones we have in these days. So flash memory can also be termed as the chip-based medium or chip-based storage. It's in a form of a chip, very small size. It's also termed as a solid state storage system. Some will also call it SSD, solid state drive. These days, even the new laptops that come in with solid state drives. It doesn't come with the usual hard disks we used to know, which had moving parts. Hard disks had moving parts, the spirals and the pins, the read write hairs on it, whereby if you don't take care and it drops, then the hard disk will crash or will become faulty. But the flash memory or the SSD, the solid state, it has no moving parts and is able to withstand shocks. Even if it falls, it's able to withstand, and you will not face much problem as compared to the HDD, the hard disk drive, which has moving parts and can become faulty when it drops or when it gets an impact with something. So these days, our new laptops and memories that come with the SSD, the solid state drive. So flash memory uses what you call the solid state storage system, which has no moving parts and are more shock proof, and is also portable than the hard disk drive. It's commonly used in digital cameras, digital music players, laptops, notebook computers, smartphones, etc. They come in two varieties: the flash memory device and then the flash memory cards. So flash memory device. It is a flash memory storage device that is small enough to fit on a key ring and plugs directly into the USB port on a computer. So examples or pictures of those are displayed here, and I believe it's common. Then we look at the flash memory cards. So they have high capacity storage laminated inside a small piece of plastic. These are examples of flash memory cards we can think of: XD picture cards, secure digital cards, multimedia cards, compact flash cards, smart media cards, memory stick media cards. We have pictures of them also here. So these are all cards and the devices that can use them. Now there are these technologies we have to be aware of. When we say reading or reading from a disk, what are we referring to? It means you are retrieving information from a storage medium. Retrieving information from a storage medium. When we say writing, what are we referring to? That is the process of copying information or data onto a storage medium or transferring data onto a storage medium. Then the drive, it is the mechanism that makes reading and writing possible. So we use the drive to write onto a medium, or we use a drive to read from a storage medium. Let's keep this difference in mind. Then back to our memory, we look at RAM. RAM, random access memory. So it is the computer's main memory, and it is used to temporarily store programs and data with which it is working with. So the programs or the data that are being used or that are being executed are stored in the random access memory. The RAM is volatile, which means it can lose its contents immediately the power goes off. RAM can be measured in either megabytes, MB, or gigabytes, GB. RAMs can come in various types, speeds, or even sizes. We have also different types of RAM. We have the DRAM or the dynamic RAM, which stores data in capacitors, and it makes and it this type of memory must always be refreshed constantly to avoid the loss of data. Then we have the SRAM, which is the static RAM. This type of RAM stores data in flip-flops and is quite opposite to the operation of the dynamic RAM. This type of RAM, the static RAM, does not need refreshing, whereas the dynamic RAM needs refreshing to avoid the data loss. The static RAM does not need refreshing, and it is more faster as compared to the dynamic RAM. Then we have the SDRAM, which can also be termed as the synchronous DRAM. Synchronous DRAM. So synchronous spelled here. So SDRAM or synchronous DRAM. This type of RAM synchronizes its operations with the system clock, whereby it improves the performance of it. Then the next one is what we refer to as the Rambus drum. Sorry. The Rambus drum. Now this type was typically designed to provide high-speed memory access. Was designed to provide high-speed memory access. Then the next type of RAM is the DDR SRAM, which is a type of the static RAM. Now, this DDR SRAM can be called double data rate RAM. Double data rate RAM. It is a type of SRAM that transfers data in double rate or in double transfer rate. So the double data rate RAM is a type of SRAM that transfers data in double transfer rate. Then the next one is the cache memory, which allows data that are frequently being used to be stored in there. So data or instructions that are frequently being used are stored in the cache memory. Now the cache memory can also be categorized into the L1 cache, L2 cache, and then the L3 cache. L1 is located very close to the CPU, the central processing unit, and it's faster. It has faster access to data. L2 is also faster but slower than the L1, and then L3 is slower. So in terms of fastness, L1 cache comes first, followed by L2, and then the slowest is the L3 cache. Then we also have what we call registers. These are high-speed memory that are built into the CPU, which keeps or stores frequently used instructions. Now we look at central processing unit. Central processing unit, what we normally call the CPU. Now, central processing unit can also be called the processor. Some also refer to it as the microprocessor, or some look at it as the brain of the computer. A microprocessor is a chip of silicon composed of electrical switches. It contains a variety of circuitry components, and it's always connected or fixed to the motherboard. So where do we see the CPU? Is always fixed or connected to the motherboard. The CPU helps instructions to be carried out or commands to be carried out, and it also interprets commands. CPU also does what we call fetching, decoding, and executing of an instruction. So before instruction can be executed, there is a part of the CPU that must fetch the instruction. There is a part that must decode it before the execution is done. So we shall look at these things pretty soon. Now, CPU has many components. We have the ALU, arithmetic logic unit. We have the control unit, that is the CU. We have the registers, prefetch unit, decode unit, internal cache, and the bus interface unit. Prefetch unit, what does it do? As the word suggests, prefetch. So this unit or component of the CPU will request for instructions and data from the RAM or from the cache on what is happening at the moment and make sure they are in the proper order for processing. So the prefetch unit or the prefetch component will beforehand or will first of all request for instructions and make sure these are arranged in the proper order. What it does is it attempts to fetch instructions and data ahead of time. Then after the instructions or data has been fetched, then it is the responsibility of the decode unit to take instructions from the prefetch unit and translate them into a form that the control unit can understand. So instructions being fetched by the prefetch unit are being decoded or translated by the decode unit and translate it into a form that the control unit can understand. The control unit is in charge of the entire process. So as the word suggests, it is in control, it is in charge of all the activities that goes on. It ensures what instruction is executed at a time. So the point here states that the control unit is in charge of the entire process, making sure everything happens at the right time. Based on instructions from the decode unit, it instructs the arithmetic logic unit and the registers on what to do. So the control unit will direct the arithmetic logical units to perform operations on a particular instruction. So it directs the various components on what to do at the right time. Then the ALU, arithmetic and logic unit, or arithmetic and logical unit. What does it do? It performs arithmetic operations, or it performs logical operations as directed by the CU, the control unit. So remember, we said control unit directs these operations and orders the ALU to perform an operation. So the ALU does all the logical operations of the computer and all the arithmetic operations as well. Then registers can also be referred to as the components that are high-speed storage areas. They are temporal stored data during processing by the ALU. Internal cache. It is used to store frequently used data or instructions to speed up the time required to get that information to the prefetch unit. So when you have instructions that are frequently executed or mostly executed, uh, it is kept, instead of keeping them in the RAM, it is kept in the cache. It is kept in the cache to allow for faster access to it. So it doesn't go all the way to the RAM for it, but it goes to the cache uh, for those instructions. So this kind uh, allows for faster access to instructions. Then another important component or unit to look at under the CPU is the bus interface unit. And this is the place where data and instructions enter or leave the CPU on the way from or to external cache and RAM. So we think of two components, the CPU and then the RAM. Now instructions will have to enter the CPU from the RAM. So when you go and fetch instructions or data from the RAM, which will later be executed by the CPU, from the RAM to the CPU, it enters through what we call the bus interface unit. And then when it is leaving the CPU back to the RAM, it also goes through or exits through what we call the bus interface unit. So it serves like a kind of a pathway a kind of a pathway that allows data or instructions to enter and exit from between the CPU and then the RAM or the cache. So we have a picture of a CPU with all the various components or the units of it. We have examples of CPUs, the AMD, the Intel Pentiums. So these are all examples of CPUs in pictures, as we can see. Then we have types of processors. So the types that belongs to Intel. So we used to have the Pentium, the Centrino, Celeron, up to the Core i3, Core i5, i7, and i9 that we have. We have those ones that belong to the AMD and the ARM also. Then other hardware components we can also think of is the system unit, which is the rectangular box which contains the main components of the computer. In fact, all the things you've mentioned can be found in the system unit. The system unit of a PC is the case that houses the motherboard, the processor, the main memory, and other hardware. Now, all hardware that are found in the system unit are connected to what we call the system board or the motherboard. So we have an example of our motherboard in the system unit here, and all the various hardware components are also connected to it. So in the system unit, like we said, we have the motherboard, which is the main circuit board of a microcomputer or of a computer, if you like. It is known as the main board or the system board. It is the main circuit board which attaches all components. Then we can also talk about buses or bus. So it is a network of communication lines or electronic parts through which bits or binary data are transferred within the CPU and between the CPU and other components of the motherboard. So buses typically allows for transfer of bits or data between the CPU or between the other components and the CPU. So it allows transfer of data with or instructions within the CPU or between the CPU and other components of the motherboard. Then we have internal bus, which helps to move data or instructions within the CPU. Then we can also talk about other parts of the system unit, which we call the base. These are spaces inside the computer system unit case where a hard drive or a floppy drive or a CD-ROM drive sit. So this is a space created inside the system units where we can slot our hard drive or the CD-ROM drives. Then we have expansion slot. So expansion slot is a socket or a connector on the computer's motherboard, which allows us to add new hardware components to the system. So when you open your system unit, you will see some expansion slot in there, which can allow you to add extra memory or extra RAM to your system unit. It can allow you to add or slot in sound card or video card especially those who like games, playing games. So these slots are provided to allow us to add new hardware components like the RAM and other cards for, if you like to say, high performance functioning of your computer. Then we can also talk about the expansion cards, which are used to connect to the expansion slot. So the expansion cards or adapters add new peripheral devices and capabilities to a computer. So we have our sound card that can be slotted in there. We have video card, network card, typically to allow us connect to the internet or to help us on a network. And then we also have the modem card. Then we have the power pack. The power pack. So a power card, which can, a power pack, which can also be termed as the power supply unit, is a component of a computer system unit that provides power to all other components. So it serves as the electricity hub of the system unit. Then we have the fan, which helps to lower the temperature of the computer. Last but not least, we talk about the port and connectors. So a port is a connector located on the motherboard or on a separate adapter. It is the interface or point of attachment. So these ports can help us to attach or connect a USB mouse or a USB keyboard to it. So these are also attached to the motherboard that can allow us to connect some peripherals to our system unit. So we have a picture of a back of a system unit and some of the things that can be done there.